hello people, and welcome to another Cities Skylines tier video. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We are finally getting around to doing the airport's DLC maps. I realise this is about 14 months late, but better late than never, right? So let's finally complete the last of the map tier list videos with the airport map, shall we? And first of all is Asani Beach, and this for me is going to fall into a very low C tier. So Asani Beach is a tropical themed map with a 75% buildable area. It has all available natural resources and all of its outside connections. For those interested in its natural resources, you will find pretty large abundances of ore and oil across most corners of the map, with the fertile land being localized around the central river. For anyone looking at wind, here you go, again around the rivers and the flatlands is where you'll find the most of it. If you're interested in the terrain, nothing too bold to shout about really. It's kind of low flatlands within the middle with more rolling hills verging on the edge of mountains coming around the edge, with a decent bit of ocean in the south of the map as well. And for those interested in fishing, it is very much a shellfish and tuna party with pockets of anchovy salmon knocking about near the coastline. We have also had requests for these tier lists going forward that we showcase the starting tile, so I will make sure to do that. Here you go, this is indeed what you get access to, good chunks of fertile land around here, and anything else you have ore and a tiny bit of oil, but you're going to get that in your next tile really. But otherwise, why is it so low on the tier list ranking? I just think it's definitely not a crap map. I don't think it quite qualifies as a crap map, but there's some things on here that I'm not happy with. So we'll fly around first of all to the beach. I think its problem is that there's better tropical maps to play now, especially from Cities map pack, and especially from Plaza's as well. Plaza's had some nice tropical maps in there. But either way, you do have this nice white sandy beach for a good chunk of the ocean. Although its gradient is a little steep, you could definitely get some nice tourism designs going on around here. Its starting tile, you are greeted with a crap vanilla T interchange. Unfortunately, there is no custom interchanges here. And then we'll get some little bridges going over a sunken rail here. The rail does come, of course, from the outside connection, which it does have some colossal order train jank to it, I suppose. There's little bits of sort of maybe too steep here, right? But of course you can correct this yourself. I will also showcase the 25 tile area now as well, because of course our console friends finally have the ability to use 25 tiles, well, at least if you're on the remastered edition anyway. But that is your 25 tile radius, alright? And this is horrific. Look at these highways. I really don't like this. This very, very nearly pulled it into crap map for me. I was thinking when I was flying around judging this that this could maybe be middle of the road, but that is bad. This is what I did in Biguzia. Do you remember? The curved 90-degree angle highways. Don't agree with that. That's really bad network job. And then after that, you do come back into another regular T intersection over this way before your outside connections leave the map. There is a big dust bowl, kind of like a dried out riverbed here, right? Or like a lake bed at least. There does look as though there's some sort of terraforming here. Maybe you could begin to feed the river into this lake over here if you wanted to. That could be quite a fun terraforming project. Where you do also run into some classic vanilla detailing next to the rail line here as well, which is always nice. I do appreciate these little abandoned villages, although there's not too much rhyme or reason why there's so many of these clustered. That looks a little strange, but whatever. I do enjoy the mountains of Asani Beach, it has to be said. They're kind of like rolling foothills verging on the edge of becoming mountains. And I think they're quite nicely terraformed actually. I don't mind these. You could definitely get some interesting builds in and around this sort of landscape. And then there is also another bit of vanilla detail in here with a beach, and then this falls away into a little waterfall down here that goes back into your bay. And then this one just sort of meanders through. Now this would be a great area for a nature reserve park. Build all this landscape up here. You've also got some more castle ruins atop it as well, plus a cemetery to make use of. So definitely an interesting build to be had in that landscape right there, I think. But otherwise, Asani Beach for me is a pretty underwhelming tropical map. There's much nicer tropical maps to play than this. Again, if you haven't seen all of our other map tier list videos, then of course you can go and check them out. But pretty underwhelming landscape, some very unacceptable network work here. I can't stand that curved bridge on the highway road. It looks awful, such a bad way of doing it. So pretty underwhelming landscapes, bad networks, and just not that much to get excited about. Leaves it a pretty underwhelming C tier in my opinion, bordering on crap map. I've not much time for Asani Beach. Next up on the airport's tier list is the temperate map of Hanami Bay, and this for me falls into a pretty decent A-tier map. So Hanami Bay is a temperate themed map with 70% buildable area. It has all of its outside connections and all of its natural resources. For those interested in the natural resources, big chunks of fertile land even within the water itself, which might be quite a challenge to use, but it is there, with pockets of oil and ore knocking around mainly in some kind of difficult to reach mountainous areas, so not the most accessible resources ever. Wind, as you would expect, around the waterways and the peaks is where you'll get the most out of it. The terrain around the centre of the map and near the starting tile is very noob friendly and flat and buildable, perfect for bringing in larger metropolitan areas, and you do have some more interesting mountainous landscapes to the north and the southwest especially. For those interested in any fishing, mainly salmon and shellfish is what you'll be finding here with very little terraforming. Those that are interested within the starting tile, this is where you start with a little bit of water down this way, with no particular resource to note outside of forestry, and a bit of oil which you'll struggle to use I think within the starting tile. And for those friends that are playing on the remastered console version, this is your 25 tile boundary for Hanami Bay. So why indeed is it a fairly high temperate map, and it's just a nice landscape. Love the dual rivers, you've got some really nice little foothills here to play with that aren't too harsh or too intimidating. You could definitely get involved with something here. Some really nice coastal landscapes as well. I love the shattered islands. There's a little bit of sandy beach in here as well, which is always great for some sort of tourism development, isn't it? We're also greeted with some more gnarly coastline. This might not be terraformed to my exact liking, but it's still pretty usable, but kind of similar to what we saw in Asani Beach, with a perhaps nature reserve coastal build available with some of the landscapes knocking around here. We do eventually arrive at a lake, which again you might want to terraform. You can kind of see where the game is egging you on, right? This is where the water would flow down here and sort of spill into the ocean, so you could definitely create a lake here, kind of a waterfall going down. That would be a very fun way to use the terrain. Before we do arrive at some very basic vanilla detailing, some trenches, logs and an abandoned factory, as you would expect, serving your outside rail connection. There is little bits of jank to the highway. You can kind of see where they've not properly curved the road here. It's been drawn on a straight angle. It's quite noticeable on highways when that happens, but it's not the worst thing in the world, and again, you can change it yourself. As we do head down to the starting interchange, and we do have a custom one. It's a custom T, but it's much nicer. Takes up a much bigger footprint, but, you know, interchanges tend to do in real life anyway. And it's really nice, right? I love it. It's got much more breathing room, nice layers of height in there. Not nearly as cramped as its vanilla counterparts, which just looks like that. So much like better, isn't it? Having it custom. Granted, you can see the size of the footprint one of them takes up, but I'd much rather have the larger one, right? You could probably actually drop in some service industry in here, actually, a bit of garbage processing or something for some industrial detailing. It'd be quite fun. But either way, you do also enjoy some nice bridge network with the rails. That's very tastefully done, isn't it? Look at that. Wonderful. As it crosses over this little gully and then heads into the mountains again to serve its outside connection. So you're really close to rail from your starting tile when you do play this map. It's just above the starting interchange here. There's some possible dodgy network stuff happening here. Might be a little bit too roller coastery that for a highway, but again, it's nothing that you can't change yourself. The river networks are really fun. I really enjoy these. They're kind of coming down on different layers. We've got a couple of waterfalls in them. There's also one over here as well. A couple more waterfalls down there as well, actually. Some nice riverside detailing here. Always enjoy the use of the vanilla rocks where appropriate. And then we do have a couple of suspension arch bridges, which again aren't offending anyone too horrendously, I don't think. It's not the worst bridge in the world, is it? Definitely worse ones that we've seen. And that one's actually really neat. That's very nicely done, isn't it? Wonderful stuff. So no horrific networks here. And then we also have another custom trumpet interchange down this end of the interchange as well, or the highway rather. So again, you know, it's nice to see some custom designs coming in. At the foothills, I've got some really nice vibes to play with. There's also some castle ruins atop here as well, and a nice little redwood forest down below, which we don't usually see, right? I've got a little bit of appreciation for the redwood trees. It's really nice down there. There's also another abandoned factory in the corner there as well, before the biggest mountain sits in the very corner. But otherwise, Hanami Bay, with this viewpoint, falls as a pretty high A-tier temperate map for me. There is definitely better must-play temperate maps, but this one will do a job for you. You've got lots of nice coastline, all connections, all resources, decent detailing, some nice custom interchanges, a little bit of network jank outside in the 81 tile radius, but unless you're on PC and planning to fill the map, you're not really going to experience that. But otherwise, very decent buildable temperate map for me. Strong A tier. And last, but certainly not least, in the airports map tier list is Noy Port, and this for me falls into must-play map. So Noy Port is a boreal themed map with an 80% buildable area. It has all of its outside connections and all available natural resources. For those interested in said natural resources, it's a pretty even split of the main three, but with most of the ore being found around the mountains or pretty difficult to reach places. With kind of long, snaky stretches of oil as well, which in the terrain could be quite difficult to reach. Around the wind, of course, the shorelines and the peaks holding the most of it. The terrain is kind of split into three separate themes, isn't it? You have kind of a middle strip, which is super buildable, the top strip, which is a lot more mountainous, and then the bottom strip is ocean, if not coastline. So not a bad mix of terrains here. And then for our water friends, it is very much shellfish and salmon here with bits of anchovy. Hiding around the coast, tuna seemingly extinct, it would seem. For those interested within the starting tile configuration, there are every resource available, which is very cool. Ore, forestry, oil and farming all available within your starting tile. And for those playing on the remastered console version, here is what you can expect from your central 25 tile radius, although if I was you, I would go down more towards the coast than centralizing your 25 tiles. So, why indeed is it a must-play? And there's a couple of things to talk about here. First of all, you can kind of get an impression. The landscapes and the scarring and the terraforming in Noy Port is very unique, and we'll stop by one of my favourite features first. So what we have here is some really cool creative terraforming that I wish we would see more of. It's kind of like, it's like a gorge, right? Like where the river would rise to and flow heavier during maybe like a wet season or like a monsoon season. And then during the summer, it falls back down again and leaves this huge scar in the landscape of where it would flow. There's a lot of rivers near me like this, and I absolutely love it, right? That's really creative use of terraforming, and such a nice way to use a riverway in a landscape. I love how it's all cut away and then the river starts. Super unique. You will have noticed as well, for the keen-eyed of you, a lot of your oil is here, which could be an interesting build, I think, to get the oil out of this landscape. Quite tricky, but, you know, it's at least a challenging build, isn't it? Give you something different to do. And you've also got some nice, cool suspension arches that are crossing this big gorge down here as well, which is just fantastic. I absolutely love this. Heading down the rivers, they do meander through the landscape as you arrive at different bits of vanilla detailing, including some cute little new tree patterns here as well, which is nice, right? Don't often see those. Quite happy with that. Again, seemingly wanting to be terraformed here. If you wanted to start working with some terraform projects, there's an isolated kind of boomerang lake here that desperately wants to be hooked into the main river. Again, where we start to see some more of those cute terraform vibes over this side. And then it meanders down to your starting tile and coast, where we're met with a wonderful kind of angled trumpet interchange, right? Is that more like a saxophone interchange? I'm not entirely sure. But it's a really nice use of the landscape and the angle, right? It's not just straight on like most trumpets are. Pretty happy with that. And then you arrive at your starting tile here. Okay, this is where you would start. You got access to some more of that really nicely terraformed river work again. Just a huge fan of this. I think it's quite clear where all of the effort went in the airports DLC and the map making, right? They really gave some time and love to Noy Port. Another really big custom trumpet interchange here as well. You know, why doesn't Hanami Bay have this? Why did it just get left with the crap vanilla ones? But whatever, right? I'm sure there was time constraints, etc. And then your highway meanders off and out of the map there to serve an outside connection, where you'll also run into some more castle detail, and this is way out towards the edge of the map though, so it's unlikely you'd actually end up getting out here. The coast is kind of a boreal beach. There's not, I did say beach there as well. Yeah, it's kind of like brown sand, so you can get on board with that vibe if you want. Kind of windy and wind-battered coastline might be more the vibe here as opposed to sort of bars and tourism, but it does give you a boreal beach to play with, which is quite an interesting idea and not something you really see that often in cities. And then the rest of its coastlines here are pretty mountainous, with a little bit of wall detail in here, where a oil tanker has tried to penetrate through the walls by the looks of it there, but obviously it's going to not get very far. Some nice beach detailing down here as well, more sort of rock pool vibes. Not entirely sure where this water's coming from, but you can rock it up and pretend, right? And then as the river splits down the coast, more nice, acceptable detailing. And then this lighthouse rises up onto this little peninsula that juts out and elevates up into the bay. To give a really cool view. So again, lots of nice builds to be had around there, but you would need to, of course, bring your 25 tiles down in order to get that. And then as you come down, more sort of scarred landscape detailing, trenches and artillery batteries or machine gun nests. Sat here overlooking the beaches, of course, as always, some classic vanilla detailing. And then more of that boreal beach over here as well, alongside a phallic rock over in the left. And we can see something actually set up right on that mountaintop, can't we? What is that? What is that? Also got some more detail over here as well as to where your intercity train is arrived and serviced from over this way, with a cute little use of the one-way track. We don't usually see that in these interchanges, so that's nice and creative. But then, of course, we have, is it another phallic rock? Yes, it is, isn't it? Wonderful. So great placement of that, right? Kind of really marks the highest point, like a cairn or something. And gives you a nice view over the map. But otherwise, Noy Port's very unique river sort of landscapes and terraforming really make this map quite interesting for me. With lots of nice buildable space as well, plus coastal opportunities and just lots of nice easy themes to work with. I can definitely see myself playing Noy Port at some point. It's a very nice boreal map. Maybe not the best ever boreal map. I think probably Wolf Creek, Oracle Lake, maybe keep it out. Probably Murky Coast as well. They're probably better than that, but this one definitely deserves a play. It's a good map, Noy Port. Alright guys, but otherwise that is going to do it for today. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, likes, comments and shares below really do help me out. Even if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a dislike as well. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of these rankings. It's kind of a mixed bag, the airport's maps. There's two decent ones and one pretty underwhelming one in here. Noy Port and Hanami Bay are decent, but Asani Beach is kind of underwhelming. But of course, it might all be the opposite way around for you. Let me know in the comments, and it's nice to finally get the last of the map tier list done. Sorry for it taking so long, it just kept getting put off, and I finally got around to doing it, so here you go. But either way, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.